First one that I got to bring up this week is off the back of watching a show in the UK. I'm guessing you can catch it in the States, but Top Gear, which has been going for years in the UK, predominantly used to be mainly about reviewing cars, but it then became more of an entertainment show when Clarkson and the other gang were on there. Nowadays, I mean, I haven't watched the show. My dad's really into it because he's a big car enthusiast, and they do a lot of these kind of big stunt kind of things on there. They do review quite interesting, as I'm a car owner, and something that I have been looking into a lot more recently is looking at electric cars or hybrids and things like that. So certainly for the future, isn't there a stat that they reckon that by 2025
they're supposed to phase out all gas cars?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so
like I told you, it leads into the thing I was telling you about. I don't want to reference Joe Rogan, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but honestly, with all this crap that's come out with our politics, and I called the I Am Legend thing. I told you guys this. I said, wait 6 months for that vaccine, just in case, let me work out all the kinks. I don't want to be the first guy. But then I was like listening to this Alex Jones go off about some stuff. So what I do with him is I pause it every 2 minutes because he's a lot like me when it comes to just having ADHD and going all over the place where your listeners like, what is going on right now? Like he just went from Bigfoot to ripsticks to crime to the judicial system to all these things. It's like, this isn't making sense. So you got to pause it. So when I was pausing it, they start talking about the carbon emissions and how it's like this, like media blows it way out of proportion to where it actually is at. And I'm like, all right, hold on. Let's take a break here because I am I've camped all my life. I'm pro environment. I'm not an environmentalist. Like I don't go and preach out with signs and do all that stuff, but I do support like recycling, all these other types of things because I care about the world we live in. But then he started mentioning a bunch of stuff about how even electric cars are giving off as much or even more emissions than gas powered cars. And I'm like, well, then what's the point? And he talks about how the number or levels of carbon dioxide that's increasing right now, that's affecting our ozone layer, is raising temperatures. That's for sure. But what it is, it's also terraforming our planet. The whole factor is plants thrive off carbon dioxide and they give off oxygen. When we start having these high levels of oxygen, plant levels start to die. But since we're exposing so much carbon dioxide, next thing you know, plants are going to start growing bigger. I mean, I've been podcasting with people that do their own botanical gardens and stuff. And next thing you know, they're talking about like, every year my peppers just keep getting bigger and I'm doing the same thing and I'm not adding extra fertilizer or anything. I'm like, carbon dioxide levels are increasing. So things are going to get bigger. Produce is going to get bigger. It's not saying it's a good thing that we're emitting all this stuff out there, but it's not good for humans. That's the higher carbon dioxide levels and lower oxygen levels. That's bad for us for survival, but it's good for plants. It's going to be a whole nother ice age again, not where it's going to be nothing but ice, but an overgrowth of how long human species has. I mean, I'm already afraid about the debates and stuff, but the factor of like, I would like to know that one day I'd have a pepper plant the size of my house. That sounds amazing.
You'll be able to live in the pepper.
In the pepper,
I think
yeah,
is
yeah.
The
like
thing.
James and the Giant Peach.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, they didn't actually go into the detail of what emissions are coming out of these electric cars, but the one that they kind of focused on was this Honda E, which Matt, I know you've seen bits and pieces about it, but my mind was just blown with some of the stuff. I mean, it looked, you could tell that it was an electric car. There's certain car manufacturers who design their e-cars so that they're clearly an electric car. And the way I can describe it is like Mini, for example, they've got their own electric car. It looks like a Mini Cooper. It looks, like a bog standard, but the wheels have got like some weird alloy.
Wheels.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's for aerodynamics or something like that.
Who knows?
To look cool. They always say
or just to look futuristic.
But the thing is, the wheels actually, and the hosts on the show actually said like the car looks, except for the wheels, kind of stood out like a sore thumb. With this Honda E, it did look, there was a classic element to it, but then at the same time you could still tell it was like a new modern electric version. But some of the information, like that they showed you about the car, it wasn't that it was necessarily fast or anything like that. I think it was 0 to 60 in about 8 seconds. The top speed was 100 miles an hour. But things that kind of stood out for me, inside the car, you had like the full dashboard, which was all like touch screens. And you know, they said there's more screens in this car than there is at your local Dixon's or stores alike. But
I don't think Robbie would get that reference.
well, exactly. In America,
Dixon's was a high street, like imagine Walmart, but like
All electric,
selling TVs,
Yeah.
and stuff.
Oh,
More
kind of like a Best Buy or whatever. where you
Yeah,
walk in
Best
with
Buy,
the
yeah,
wallet.
exactly. Good
Best
example.
comparison, yeah.
But he said like the features on these screens, other than the obvious kind of your sat navs and things like that, there was a feature on there that you can have like almost like a desktop wallpaper that you have on your computer of
No.
Japan.
No.
And then a second feature, and the funny thing is, the host of the show, I forget his name, but he said, not sure what the relevance of that is, but it looks cool. And then he said, and if you don't like that one, there's an aquarium you can make it. So that you literally see these fish. So it's like while you're driving, you can observe some, you know,
It
graphic.
reminds me of the old commercials where like I'm a PC and I'm a Mac. It's like,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
Exactly that.
But the other thing, there was an actual PowerPoint in the car, I guess, like you would in a modern day now, where you can add where your lighters used to be, where you can put in a charging point or whatever. But there was an actual UK 3-prong PowerPoint, and the guy said if you wanted to plug your PlayStation into this, you could. And I just thought, at what point are you going to be bringing a PlayStation? I mean, as well, the screen ratio was a bit weird anyway, like how you play a game on there. But it's just mad to think what's going on with these cars at the moment. But the best thing about this episode for me, the point of it was they were racing 3 different E-type cars around a theme park, which I thought was that they were Thorpe Park, Alton Towers, sorry, in the UK, and they were literally driving these around. They had to get from one side to the other, and it was just showing you the kind of how good they were with manoeuvring
Handling and stuff,
handling and things like that. It was an awesome episode, but crazy to think what's what technology they're putting into cars now.
Well, the interesting thing I find that for an American, like the Hummer is such a iconic car that was, you know, the example of, you know, I think Hummers did 8 miles to the gallon or something ridiculous like that. The General Motors is now releasing an electric one. And that has Unreal Engine is the entertainment system in it. So Epic Games, who make Fortnite and other games, have a game engine called Unreal. Hummer, General Motors have used their game engine for the for the entertainment system within, like the whole dashboard and everything like that runs on that. So.
I wonder how much one of them's going to set you back, because even
I think they're about $90,000 or something. They're the premium prices.
We're going to call this Robbie's issues, okay? One, I want to come off as saying I'm not saying climate change isn't real. It's definitely real. 2, the Hummer thing. It took me, I remember I had an electric go-kart as a kid. You could charge that thing for 3 days. Next thing you know, you had maybe, an hour at the best of it? How long is it going to take to charge a Hummer?
Yeah.
Like you're charging your car. Well, I work on Monday and it's Tuesday now, so maybe by the time I'll be able to drive 10 minutes down the road. That's what gets me is when you start like the display thing you're talking about.